Dave Ramsey is a personal finance guru whose common sense, focus on the basics approach to getting out of debt and building wealth has earned him celebrity status. He has written 4 New York Times best-selling books: Financial Peace, More Than Enough, The Total Money Makeover, and EntreLeadership. His radio program, The Dave Ramsey Show, attracts millions of listeners a week on hundreds of stations in the United States and Canada. In addition to dispensing personal financial information through his books and radio program, Ramsey is a popular speaker, making dozens of personal appearances a year across the continent. He also conducts personal finance courses through his Financial Peace University. The Total Money Makeover, A Proven Plan for Financial Fitness by Dave Ramsey, is a book about how to go from debt-ridden to financially secure. The Total Money Makeover is a formula that consists of 7 baby steps to help people reach financial security. The first baby step is to create an emergency fund of $500 to $1,000 so emergencies can be paid for without adding to debt. The second baby step is to pay off all debt, which includes credit cards and loans. This is done by creating a debt snowball, by paying off the smallest debt, then the next smallest, and the next until all debt, with the exception of the debtor's mortgage, is paid. The third baby step is to create an expanded emergency fund that can cover 3 to 6 months of household expenses. This expanded fund is to keep from plunging into debt again if a job is lost, a person becomes disabled, or a person faces a large, unexpected expense, like a hospital bill. The fourth baby step is to devote at least 15% of household income to a retirement fund. The fifth baby step is to save for the children's college expenses in order to avoid taking out student loans. The sixth baby step for becoming wealthy is paying off the home mortgage. This can be difficult, but it needs to be done. This will free up money to invest. The seventh baby step is to have fun, invest, and do good with the money accumulated. Building a pile of money is not what gives most wealthy people joy. It's what they do with it. For example, a successful investor could use money earned to travel extensively and make donations to their favorite charities while still investing a portion of their overall capital. 1. The first baby step in eliminating debt, building wealth, and doing good with money, the Total Money Makeover, is to set up a basic emergency fund of $500 to $1,000. 2. The second baby step in a Total Money Makeover is to create a debt snowball by paying off all debt except for the home mortgage. 3. The third baby step in a Total Money Makeover is to expand the emergency fund established in Step 1 to cover 3 to 6 months of monthly expenses. 4. The fourth step in a Total Money Makeover is to begin investing for retirement. 5. The fifth baby step in a Total Money Makeover is to save for college. Do not take out student loans to get children through college, as the debt will follow debtors for decades, and there are ways to graduate without debt. 6. The sixth baby step in a Total Money Makeover is to pay off the home mortgage. 7. The last step in a Total Money Makeover is to continue investing, use your money to have fun, and do good by giving sizable amounts of it away. 8. There are many myths about money that lead people astray. Do not fall victim to them. Analysis. Key takeaway 1. The first baby step in eliminating debt, building wealth, and doing good with money, the Total Money Makeover, is to set up a basic emergency fund of $500 to $1,000. The reason for creating an emergency fund is to have money to cover emergencies without having to go deeper in debt. Too many people use their credit cards to cover emergencies, digging a deeper debt hole for themselves. It is important that an emergency fund is used only for emergencies, not for non-essentials like clothes. When money is withdrawn from the fund, replenish it as soon as possible to cover the next emergency. Kiplinger personal finance columnist Cameron Huddleston is one of the many Americans who used excuses to put off creating an emergency fund before finally admitting she was foolish and taking the plunge. She says there are 3 excuses many people use for not creating a fund. One of them is that people can use their credit card to cover an emergency. The key reason for creating an emergency fund is so that people do not have to cover emergencies by increasing their debt. Another excuse that Huddleston says many people use to avoid creating an emergency fund is contending that they cannot afford it. Her answer to that is that people can look at their monthly expenses, eliminate the fat, then put the money saved into an emergency fund. A third excuse that people use to avoid creating an emergency fund is their contention that they have other financial resources they can tap in an emergency. One of the resources people mention is the equity in their home. What they are talking about is taking out a home equity loan to cover emergency expenses. There are 2 problems with a home equity loan. The first is that it is debt, so that means the debtor will be increasing their debt to cover an emergency, in the same way they would use a credit card to cover an emergency. The second is that a home equity loan can be dangerous. If a person cannot repay it, they can lose their home. Key takeaway 2. The second baby step in a total money makeover is to create a debt snowball to pay off all debt except for the home mortgage. A person can never get anywhere financially without paying off all debt except a home mortgage. As long as people have debt, too much of their income will go to covering principal and interest on the debt rather than investing to build wealth. Paying off debt will require sacrifice, including forgoing all but the most necessary spending and possibly getting a second job. The best way to begin eliminating debt is to pay off the smallest debt first, the next smallest after that, and so on. A method that creates what is called a debt snowball. Using this method creates confidence in the debtor as each debt is paid. There is a debate among personal finance experts about whether people should pay off their smallest debt first or the debt with the highest interest rate. Some of the experts believe the debt with the highest interest rate should be paid first because it will reduce the amount of money the debtor pays in interest. This refers particularly to credit card debt because it carries the highest interest rates. Other experts believe debtors should pay off their smallest debt first to feel accomplishment and build confidence. Once a debtor has one debt out of the way, they are more motivated to tackle the next one. 2 researchers from Texas A&M University, Alexander Brown and Joanna Leahy, asked 2 sets of people to complete tedious tasks on Microsoft's Excel. One group did their tasks in a smallest to largest order. The other were instructed to use the reverse order, largest to smallest. The smallest to largest group finished the work faster than the other group. The researchers concluded that accomplishing initial chunks of the work quicker by starting small built confidence, leading to task momentum. This led the researchers to conclude that when it comes to paying off debt, going from smallest to largest could be the way for most people to go. Key takeaway 3. The third baby step in a total money makeover is to expand the emergency fund established in Step 1 to cover 3 to 6 months of monthly expenses. People should increase their emergency fund to cover up to 6 months of expenses. The reason for this is protection against total financial devastation if a person is laid off, unable to work due to injury, or forced to deal with a large, unexpected expense, like a hospital bill. Personal finance experts used to recommend putting 3 months' worth of expenses in an emergency fund, but many recommend 6 months these days. If a person is self-employed, they recommend an even larger savings, such as one that covers a year's worth of expenses. The emergency fund needs to be liquid, a banker's term for the ability to use it immediately. Therefore, the fund should be in a savings account or money market account. That bothers many people, however, because the interest rates on savings and money market accounts are very low. A lot of people always try to beat the system, and some of them have decided not to have an expanded emergency fund because of these low rates of return. Instead, they have hit upon what they think is the savvy idea of using their Roth IRA as their emergency fund. A Roth is a retirement investment fund. An investor puts money in it, and when they reach age 59 and a half, they can begin drawing it out. The reason some people have decided to use a Roth as an emergency fund is that when an investor withdraws money from a Roth, they do not have to pay tax on it. That is because they paid tax when they invested the money in the Roth in the first place. This tax-free withdrawal feature of a Roth is why some people are using it as an emergency fund. The problem is, an investor can only put so much money in a Roth every year. That means that when they make a withdrawal, they cannot put it back in the Roth to work for them again. The investor loses that amount of money as an investment vehicle, making the overall investment smaller. A person should not do anything to reduce the amount of money they have invested. Therefore, using a Roth as an emergency fund is unwise. Key takeaway 4. The fourth baby step in a total money makeover is to begin investing for retirement. With non-mortgage debt eliminated, people will have money to invest for retirement. Starting with a 401k if a person's employer matches some of the money they put in it is a good way to begin. Then, a Roth IRA that allows a person to invest up to $5,000 a year, and when the money is withdrawn, it is tax-free. The most important investment vehicle for most people, however, is mutual funds. Mutual funds consistently average a 12% annual return. If a person starts investing early enough and sticks with it, a 12% return can make them a millionaire. Mutual funds are a great investment for those who do not have an understanding of individual stocks and bonds or the time and inclination to obtain that understanding. 3 pluses with mutual funds, according to the Wealthy Geek website, are affordability, diversification, and professional management. Some stocks are so expensive that average investors cannot afford them. The most famous example is Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway. One share these days goes for about $190,000. Another example is Google, whose stock goes for about $620 a share. Mutual funds allow investors to own these companies by buying small slices of them. Mutual funds also offer diversification by owning dozens of companies rather than a few stocks. This means that a drop in one stock is likely to be offset by a rise in others in the portfolio. Another plus with mutual funds is professional management. The fact that professionals are running mutual funds means that small investors do not have to worry about not having enough knowledge to invest. They can let a pro do the work. A person who starts investing $15,000 a year in a mutual fund that returns 12% annually when he is 25 years old will accumulate $1.25 million in savings by the time he is 65. Key takeaway 5. The fifth baby step in a total money makeover is to save for college. Do not take out student loans to get children through college, as the debt will follow debtors for decades, and there are ways to graduate without debt. Parents should put enough money in a college fund so that their children do not have to go into debt to get a degree. Parents want to pay cash to get them through, so their children do not start their careers with a massive debt that prevents them from buying a home or investing their earnings. One way to avoid debt is to send the student to a cheaper public school. If the student can get scholarships, so much the better. And if the college fund created falls a little short of what they need, the student can get a part-time job. Rachel Cruz is not accustomed to getting her name in the limelight like her famous father, the personal finance guru Dave Ramsey. But in 2014, a feature story about how students can graduate from college without debt featured her because she succeeded in doing it. When Cruz was a high school senior in her home state of Tennessee, she dreamed of going to Auburn University in Alabama. However, going to Auburn would cost triple what it would cost to go to a university in Tennessee. Ramsey told her that if she wanted to go to Auburn, he would give her the money that an education in Tennessee would cost, and she would have to cover the rest. At first, Cruz was perturbed. After taking a close look at whether an education at Auburn would be a lot better than an education in Tennessee, she decided the quality would be about the same, so she stayed in Tennessee and graduated debt-free. "We live out what we preach," she says of following her father's principle that students should graduate from college with no debt. Key takeaway 6. The sixth baby step in a total money makeover is to pay off the home mortgage. A home mortgage is most people's largest monthly debt payment. Paying it off lifts a huge financial and psychological burden from their shoulders and ratchets up the amount of money they can use to invest for their retirement. Whatever it takes, the home mortgage should be paid off as soon as possible. It will create a feeling of immense freedom, and the nest egg will grow as never before. The personal finance website Real Simple offers 5 excellent strategies for paying off a mortgage early. The first is to refinance the loan to get a lower interest rate. An important caveat, however, is that the new loan should not be for a longer period of time than the original. A longer time frame means the debtor will pay more interest, not less, by refinancing. The best strategy would be to refinance for the shortest time available. 15 years is a good length of time for a mortgage refinance. The shorter the mortgage, the quicker it can be paid off and free up money for investing. Another strategy for paying off a mortgage early is to make a lump sum payment on the loan. If the debtor gets a tax return or sells a piece of land, they should use the money to pay down their mortgage. Lump sum payments will both decrease the time it takes to pay off the loan and reduce the interest paid on it. Still, another strategy for paying off a mortgage early is to make twice a month instead of once a month payments. Paying this way decreases the time it takes to pay off the loan and reduces the overall amount paid. Finally, debtors should round up their payment. Real Simple says that if a debtor has a payment obligation of $954.83 a month, they should send the lender $1,000 a month. That relatively small monthly increase can lead to paying the loan off more than 2 years early. Key takeaway 7. The last step in a total money makeover is to continue investing. Use your money to have fun and do good by giving sizable amounts of it away. When a person has reached a level of wealth that will give them a comfortable retirement, they should not stop investing, but continue. However, they should also have fun with it and do good by giving some of it away. Accumulating a sizable savings gives people a good feeling and peace of mind, but the joy of having money is having fun with it and giving some to others. A lot of wealthy people have come to realize that the joy of money is not in accumulating it, but having fun with it and doing good. 2 of the richest people on the planet, billionaires Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, started what they called the Giving Pledge program in 2009. Under this initiative, billionaires pledge publicly to give away at least half their money either during their lifetimes or in their wills. 130 billionaires on 5 continents have signed up so far. Bill Gates and his wife Melinda are giving away money through their internationally acclaimed Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which is focused mostly on improving world health and education. The reason Gates claims they started it was because they learned 500,000 children a year were dying of rotavirus, a disease that health officials say is preventable. Buffett has decided to give the bulk of his money away after he dies. However, he is already contributing some of it to 5 major charities and other causes. In terms of the fun wealthy people should have with their money, one of Gates' extravagances is a Porsche, although the car he uses the most is a gas-saving Ford Focus. Key takeaway 8. There are many myths about money that lead people astray. Do not fall victim to them. Myths about money cover a lot of ground. One myth is that there is no reason to invest because if a person plays their cards right, a person can get rich quick. A more specific money myth is the notion that prepaying for a child's education is a good way to invest and protect people against inflation. These myths harm many people because they prevent them from paying off debt and investing. One of the myths that many people have learned the hard way is that they can use debt to leverage themselves into prosperity. Property flipping is one way a lot of people have tried to use debt as a springboard to riches and failed. This involves buying a house or other property for little or no money down, with the idea of selling it at a sizable profit in a few months, rather than building equity over the long term. This only works, of course, when real estate prices are jumping. The danger is that if prices begin falling or level off, The investor has a big monthly mortgage payment they must continue paying, and in many cases, they cannot keep paying it. Casey Sarin, a young Sacramento-based immigrant from Uzbekistan, bought 8 houses in the southwestern United States beginning in 2005 that he planned to flip. The real estate market tanked, and he ended up millions of dollars in debt. Sarin, whom some news organizations called the poster child of the U.S. subprime property bust in the late 2000s, is just one of many would-be property flippers who learned the hard way that they could not use debt to leverage themselves into prosperity.